I never thought I'd hack my own father's bank account at 12. But desperation has a way of turning kids into ghosts in the machine. One rainy Tuesday in our cookie-cutter cul-de-sac in suburban Seattle, I discovered the truth. Dad hadn't just borrowed my college fund, he'd vaporized it. $50,000 gone like smoke from one of his secret Marlboros, funneled into the greasy palms of a Vegas bookie to cover his poker debts from screwing over his poker buddies in a rigged corporate deal. And the hook that lodged deepest in my gut? Mom knew. She'd signed the withdrawal slip with a forged signature that looked just like mine. All because she was too spineless to leave the golden handcuffs of his six-figure tech salary, even as he cheated on her with that bleach blonde intern from his downtown office. That night, as thunder rattled the double-paned windows of our split-level rancher, I sat cross-legged on my twin bed, the glow of my Chromebook illuminating the posters of Ada Lovelace and Malala that Mom had tacked up to inspire me. Inspire? What a joke. The house smelled like damp cedar from the evergreens outside and the faint, acrid tang of Dad's aftershave clinging to the air vents. He'd come home late again, tie loosened like a noose he couldn't quite tighten, bragging about closing some bullshit merger at his software firm while Mom microwaved lean cuisines and pretended the wine stains on the carpet were from spills. But I'd seen the emails, hacked them from his unlocked iPad while he was in the shower, water drumming like accusations. Emergency transfer, he'd typed to the bank. For family. That word tasted like battery acid now. I was Charlotte Hayes, straight-A 7th grader at Evergreen Middle, the kid who won the science fair with a solar-powered water purifier made from recyclables. The one teachers called precocious like it was a compliment instead of code for weird loner. But precocious meant I knew how to code in Python before most kids knew TikTok dances. Thanks to those free Code Academy courses Mom signed me up for to keep me out of trouble. Trouble. If only they knew the real trouble was brewing in the veins of our perfect American dream facade, the one with the 2-car garage, the PDA bake sales, and the annual trip to Disneyland that masked the rot underneath. It started 6 months earlier, or at least that's when the cracks spiderwebbed wide enough for me to notice.
Dad.
Richard Hayes was the king of his castle, VP of sales at Puget Tech Solutions, the guy who schmoozed venture capitalists over craft IPAs at Pike Place happy hours, flashing that veneered smile that could sell ice to Inuits. He drove a gleaming black Escalade, the kind with massaging seats and a sunroof that let in the perpetual Pacific Northwest drizzle like tears from the sky.
Mom.
Elena was the trophy wife Redix, former graphic designer who'd traded her Adobe suite for yoga pants and Zoloft prescriptions. Her days a blur of soccer mom carpools and book club brunches where they dissected Gone Girl like it was fiction, not prophecy. The college fund was my North Star. Grandma Hayes, Dad's mom, the steel-haired widow from Tacoma who'd clawed her way through nursing school during the Depression, had left it to me in her will. For the girl who'll change the world, she'd scrawled in her shaky cursive, $50,000 socked away in a 529 plan, compounding like quiet rebellion against the patriarchy that had clipped her own wings. I'd check the balance obsessively on my phone app, watching it tick up like hits on a viral video, dreaming of MIT's ivy-choked quads or Stanford's sun-baked innovation labs. It was mine. Untouchable. Sacred. Then,
Poof.
one login, and the app spat back insufficient funds, heart slamming like a bass drop in an EDM track. I raced downstairs, laptop under arm, bursting into the living room where Dad lounged in his lazy boy, remote in one hand, tumbler of bourbon in the other, Fox News droning about border walls and tech billionaires.
Dad.
What the hell? I blurted, the curse words slipping out like vomit. Mom hated swearing, called it unladylike, but unladylike felt right in that moment. He didn't even look up at first, just swirled the amber liquid, ice clinking like chains. Watch your mouth.
Charlie.
What's the problem? The fund. Grandma's money. It's gone. A pause. The kind that stretches TV static into eternity. Then his laugh. That booming baritone he'd honed at Toastmasters. The one that made boardrooms bend.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
Kiddo.
Tough break. Market dipped. Your mom and I had to pull some out for expenses. House stuff. You'll thank us when you're older.
Lies.
I'd already traced the transaction ID through the bank's public API. Thank you. 8th grade cybersecurity club. It wasn't stocks. It was a wire to an offshore account in the Caymans. Tagged consulting fees, but linked to a Vegas casino's backend. And the authorizing signature? Scanned from my school permission slip for the field trip to the Space Needle. Mom's doing. She'd confessed in a hushed phone call to her sister, Aunt Lydia, which I'd overheard while studying in the laundry room. Rick's in deep.
Sis. The debts.
If the IRS sniffs this, we're done. Charlie's fund was the only liquid asset. Betrayal doesn't hit like a slap. It seeps like fog off Lake Washington, chilling you to the marrow. Mom, who'd braided my hair for recitals and packed my lunches with notes saying, "You're my world," had sold my future for a mirage of marital bliss. Dad, the hero who taught me to ride a bike on Alki Beach, promising the sky's the limit, had gambled it away chasing the high of outsmarting the house, literally, since his poker ring involved insider tips from hacked client data at work. White-collar crime. The American way, no guns, just algorithms and alibis. That was hook number 2, realizing the people who birthed you could bury you without a shovel. I confronted Mom the next morning over Frosted Flakes, the kitchen clock ticking like a bomb. She was in her silk robe, hair in rollers, scrolling Pinterest for fall decor like normalcy was a shield.
Mom.
Why'd you sign my name? That's fraud. I could go to juvie. Her spoon froze midair, milk dripping like guilt. Charlie?
Honey.
It's complicated. Your father, he's under so much pressure. The firm. The economy. We were going to replace it. Promise. Replace what? My dreams? Grandma's last gift. My voice cracked, but I held her gaze. Those hazel eyes that mirrored mine. Now watery with the tears she weaponized so well. She reached for my hand, but I yanked back. We're a family. We stick together. You'll understand when you're older. Older. That word again, like a lullaby for suckers. I was 12. But 12 in America means old enough to navigate Google like a pro. Old enough to know that family is just a tax bracket, not a fortress. From there, the plan crystallized in my sleep-deprived brain like code compiling error-free. Revenge wasn't about screaming or tears. It was surgical, a scalpel to the empire Dad had built on sand. I'd outsmart him, not with fists or pleas, but with the invisible threads of the digital age, the ones he thought he controlled but barely understood. He was 42, glued to CNBC and golf simulators. I was the ghost in his machine. The kid who'd taught herself SQL over summer break while he golfed at Sahali Country Club. Step 1. Reconnaissance. I started small, mirroring his browser history through the family router I'd compromised with a simple ARP spoof. 8th grade stuff. Really? Turns out, Dad's poker nights weren't with buddies from the office. They were high-stakes underground games in Belltown lofts. hosted by a syndicate of washed-up tech bros and Russian emigres who'd fled Silicon Valley scandals. He'd been skimming from client escrow accounts, using my fund as the final Hail Mary to cover a $200,000 marker after a bad beat on a River card. And the intern? Not just arm candy, Lacey.
25.
With a real estate license and a side hustle in crypto scams, whispering sweet nothings about offshore havens while riding him in the guest room during mom's girls' weekends. Controversy brewed in my choices from the jump. Was it right to spy? To weaponize kid logic against adult sins? Hell. In America, kids sue for emancipation at 14, at 12. I was just accelerating the curve. I debated it in my journal. Pages filled with pros/cons lists like a mini CEO, pro, justice for grandma's legacy. Con, risk of family implosion. CPS visits. The whole troubled youth label that sticks like gum to your transcript. But the secret that twisted the knife? Dad wasn't just a gambler. He was a thief who'd pinned a prior embezzlement on Uncle Theo, Mom's brother. The gentle accountant who'd offed himself 2 years back after the feds raided his firm. I'd found the emails buried in Dad's deleted folder. Theo takes the fall. We get the payout. Insurance covers it. Mom had known. Too, her reply, as long as it doesn't touch us. They'd buried him in a plot at Holyrood Cemetery, eulogizing poor Theo's depression while pocketing the $300,000 policy. I bore that crime now, the weight of their lie pressing on my chest like the damp Seattle air, making every breath a confession I couldn't voice. Nights blurred into a vigil. I'd sneak Dad's phone from his docker's pocket while he snored, post-coital with Lacey's perfume lingering, and sift through texts, need $50K by Friday or the wolves eat. Victor, the syndicate boss. A hulking ex-KGB type running import-export from a waterfront warehouse. His ex-profile, under at Baltic Bear 206, a parade of yacht selfies and veiled threats. Dad's replies begged, bluffed, promised one more score from a pending IPO leak. My hand shook as I coded the first worm, innocuous script disguised as a game update on his work laptop, courtesy of a USB drop during his nap. It harvested keystrokes, emails, even webcam feeds of him pacing his corner office overlooking Elliott Bay, sweat beading as he dialed shady brokers. Evidence piled like digital hoarfrost, wire transfers, falsified ledgers, even a video of him palming chips at the table, marked for the house cam. But power's a drug, and mine was spiking. At school, I'd zone out in algebra, sketching flowcharts of takedowns instead of parabolas. Friends like Mia, the braces-wearing gossip queen, noticed, Charlie, you okay? You look like you saw a ghost. I'd force a grin, mumble about family drama, but inside, the tension coiled like a spring in a bear trap. Dad's empire was crumbling, clients pulling contracts after whispers of irregularities, Mom popping extra Xanax with her morning latte. Yet they clung, hosting block parties with charcuterie boards and craft ciders. The facade of Hayes' family bliss as polished as Dad's LinkedIn profile. The first strike landed subtle. A feint. I rerouted a $10,000 bonus from his direct deposit to a dummy account I'd set up under a fake pulled from public records of a deceased infant. Dark web ethics be damned. He noticed at dinner, fork pausing over salmon he'd grilled on the Weber. Bank screw-up. Again, Mom fretted, offering to call HR. But I saw the flicker in his eyes, fear, the great equalizer. That night, I heard them argue through the walls. It's the Russians. Rick. They're circling. Shut up. Elena. I'll handle it. Handle it. Like he handled Uncle Theo. The thought ignited something feral, A 12-year-old's rage distilled to pure octane. I escalated, leaking anonymized snippets to the SEC whistleblower portal. Nothing damning. Just enough to trigger an audit. Dad's poker face cracked at breakfast. Feds are sniffing around the office. Some bullshit compliance check. He slammed his Seattle Times. Coffee sloshing like bile. Mom's eyes darted to me, then away. Guilt? Or calculation? I'd tapped her phone too. Uncovering text to a divorce lawyer in Bellevue. If he goes down, I want half. Charlotte's future intact, so she was playing both sides, hedging bets like a true haze. Betrayal squared. A Mobius strip of deceit. As autumn leaves turned the neighborhood into a postcard of decay, my plan hit overdrive. Victor was the key. Cut off the head. Watch the body thrash. Using Dad's harvested creds, I posed as him on a darknet forum, tipping the syndicate to a double cross. Hayes is wearing a wire for the feds. Take him out quiet. Child's play in the shadows of Tor. But the fallout was electric. Dad's Escalade got keyed with Cyrillic slurs overnight. Anonymous calls flooded the house. Heavy accents demanding payment or pain. He unraveled like cheap thread. Mornings, he'd chug Red Bull instead of coffee. Eyes bloodshot from all-nighters crunching numbers. At the dinner table, he'd snap at Mom over nothing, her nagging about bills. Her hysteria over the fund. Once, he grabbed her wrist hard enough to bruise, hissing, "You think I don't know you dipped into Charlie's pot too? For your spa retreats?" She yanked free, tears streaming, but no cops called. American marriage, duct tape over dynamite. I watched from the stairs, invisible, my heart a war drum. Controversial? Hell yes, stoking mob heat on your own dad, cross lines even I blurred in nightmares. But Uncle Theo's ghost whispered approval. His suicide note, stolen from Mom's drawer, burning in my memory. They took everything. Forgive me, Charlotte. Forgiveness was for suckers. Restitution was my gospel. The climax brewed over Thanksgiving break. The house bloated with turkey and tension, relatives descending like locusts on our gratitude charade. Aunt Lydia arrived with her gluten-free pies, eyeing Mom's forced smiles. Dad played host, carving the bird with theatrical flair, but his hands trembled, knife slipping. "Steady there, Ricky," Uncle Mark joked, oblivious. I excused myself early, retreating to my room to execute the kill shot. It was a Trojan horse, elegant in its malice, a phishing email to Victor's crew, spoofed from Dad's work server, attaching proof of betrayal, fabricated audio of him ratting to the FBI. My voice modulated low and gravelly, laced with Seattle slang for authenticity. "Hayes sold you out. Comrades." Coordinates attached. Meet him at the docks. Midnight. The coordinates led to an abandoned pier in Fremont. The kind where tugboats rust and fog swallows screams. Dad took the bait. Of course. I watched via a drone I'd borrowed from the school robotics club, $200 Amazon knockoff, streaming live to my tablet. He pulled up at 11:45 p.m., rain sheeting the windshield, headlights cutting the murk like accusations. Victor and two goons emerged from a panel van, fur-collared coats gleaming wet, faces hard as basalt under sodium lamps. "Hayes," Victor growled, accent thick as borscht. "You think you play us?" "Wire." Dad stumbled out, palms up, rain matting his perfect hair.
What? No.
"Man, it's a setup. Someone's framing me." The goons closed in, one flashing a Glock under his jacket. "No shots." "Not yet." but the threat hung heavy as the briny air. Victor backhanded him, a wet smack echoing off the pilings. "You owe $250 now." "With interest." Dad crumpled, begging, promising 1 week. "I swear." From my perch, heart jackhammering, I felt godlike and gutted. This was power, raw and American, David slinging stones from the cloud. But as they zip-tied his wrists and bundled him into the van, a twist gnawed. What if they killed him? Mom's text flashed. She'd wired $20,000 to the Caymans that afternoon. For insurance. Was she tipping Victor off too? Covering her own tracks? I aborted the stream, drone whirring homeward, and paced my room till dawn. The house silent save for Mom's muffled sobs downstairs. Dad didn't come home. By noon, cops knocked, missing persons. Mom played the distraught wife, fainting dramatically into Aunt Lydia's arms. I feigned shock, hugging my knees on the couch. But inside, triumph soured to dread. The feds swarmed by evening, SEC suits in ill-fitting blazers combing our hard drives. Routine inquiry, they lied. But I knew better, my leaks had blossomed. Mom confessed fragments under pressure. The fund, the forgery, Uncle Theo's frame. "Rick forced me," she wailed. But her eyes flicked to me, pleading silence on her complicity. Then the call came at 3 a.m. How stark is sin? Unknown number. I answered on the kitchen landline, breath held. "Little bird," Victor's voice, oily and amused. "You think we don't trace? Your daddy's toy drone, cute. He sings now. In the basement. About his smart girl. The hacker prodigy. Ice in my veins." Twist, they'd waterboard the truth from him. IP logs. My bedroom MAC address. I was 12, but in their world, age was no shield. "Come alone," he purred. Or we feed him to the sound, piece by piece. Pier 86.
Dawn. Dawn.
The witching hour for reckonings. I slipped out, backpack stuffed with my laptop, a burner phone, and Grandma's old pearl-handled letter opener, pathetic weapon, but sentimental. Rain had stopped, streets slick with sodium glow, the city stirring like a beast. Uber to the waterfront, $1.28. Paid for my lemonade stand savings. The driver chatting Seahawks scores I ignored. Pier 86 loomed, crane skeletal against the slate sky. Ferries hooting mournfully. Victor waited under a dripping awning, flanked by goons. Dad slumped against a shipping container, face swollen, one eye a purple plum. "Charlotte," he croaked as I approached, voice raw.
Run.
"Please." Victor chuckled, gold tooth glinting. "Such family. You outsmart him." Like cat with mouse. He held up my drone, smashed to bits. But mice have claws too. The confrontation stretched taut as piano wire. I monologued, kid version. Anyway, spilling the sins, the fund, the frame, Mom's cut. Dad wept, mumbling apologies. "I did it for us. Charlie, for the legacy." Legacy. His, not mine. Victor listened, intrigued, then offered a deal. "Work for me? Little coder. Hack the big fish banks. Rivals. Your papa lives. Fund returns double. Temptation serpent. Coiled in opportunity.
Power.
Real power. Not just petty revenge. I could rebuild Grandma's gift tenfold. By Mom's silence. Rewrite the Hayes name from ashes. Controversial? Selling my soul at 12 for a shot at the throne? But the twist reversed everything. As Victor leaned in, smug, my burner buzzed, a text from an unknown. Feds en route. Victor tipped. Walk away.
Mom.
She'd flipped, cutting a deal with the DA for immunity, spilling on the syndicate to save her skin. Sirens wailed distant, closing fast. Chaos erupted. Goons scattered. Victor cursing in Russian, shoving Dad toward me. Take your trash. We bolted. His arm over my shoulder, hobbling to a rusted barge as blue lights flashed the horizon. Feds swarmed, barking orders, cuffs snapping on Victor mid-sprint. In the aftermath, dawn breaking bloody over the sound, Dad collapsed at my feet,
Gasping.
You saved me.
Saved?
I damned us all. His crimes exposed. Mom arrested for forgery. The house seized in asset forfeiture. The fund? Seized too. But a plea deal funneled restitution my way, $75,000. Courtesy of Uncle Theo's estate clawback. We relocated to a dingy apartment in Tacoma. Grandma's old stomping grounds, me. Dad on probation. Mom in county for 6 months rehab. He got a night shift gig at a call center. Eyes hollow. My worm scars a constant reminder. I enrolled in online school. Coding for ethical bounties now. MIT scouts emailing already. Happy ending? Or tragedy in sheep's clothing? Dad calls me hero, but I see the fear when I touch his phone. Mom writes letters from lockup. Proud of my fighter. Proud. The word echoes hollow. I outsmarted him. Sure, but at what cost? The girl who hacked for justice now questions if revenge was just another gamble. And in America's great casino, the house always wins a piece. Yet here I am, 12 going on ancient, staring at the Puget Sound from our balcony. Waves whispering secrets. The world's still mine to code. One line at a time. And if the wolves howl again, I'll be ready, with sharper teeth. Life in the Tacoma walk-up was like trading a leather-bound bestseller for a dog-eared paperback. Same story. Cheaper ink. More creases. The building. A faded brick relic called Evergreen Arms. Irony's cruelest joke. Squatted on the bluff overlooking the industrial sprawl, where container ships groaned like arthritic giants unloading dreams from Asia. Our unit, 2B, smelled of boiled cabbage from the downstairs Koreans and the faint, perpetual mildew that seeped from walls thin as whispers. Dad and I shared a 2-bedroom. The kind where the second room was a curtained alcove off the kitchen. My domain now partitioned with thrift store screens plastered in quantum physics printouts. Morning started with the screech of gulls scavenging the docks and Dad's ritualistic hacking cough, remnants of stress, or maybe the cigars he'd sworn off but clearly hadn't. He'd shuffle to the Formica counter, brew Folgers in a pot older than me, and stare at the classifieds like they held the code to resurrection. Gonna land something soon. Charlie, he'd mutter. Voice gravel from the pier beating. Something in sales. Remote. Maybe. Keep us afloat. Afloat. We were treading water in the gene pool of the American underclass now. The one where food stamps came wrapped in dignity's corpse and pull yourself up meant dodging eviction notices. The feds had stripped us bare, Escalade impounded, house auctioned to pay restitution victims, mostly Dad's poker marks. Small-time suckers who'd lost nest eggs on his bluffs. Mom's trial was a circus. Splashed across the Tacoma News-Tribune as tech exec's wife in forgery fiasco, her mugshot doing that wide-eyed deer thing that screamed, suburban soccer, mom gone rogue. 6 months at Purdy Women's. Plus probation. Community service sorting mail at the post office. She sent postcards with pressed wildflowers. Scrawls of "Miss you." My genius, but I filed them in a shoebox labeled evidence, unsure if they were love or leverage. School was virtual now. Courtesy of the district's trauma protocol, code for "Don't infect the normies with your drama." I logged in from the fold-out table. Webcam angled to crop out the peeling linoleum. Acing AP previews while classmates TikTok'd their way through puberty. Mia messaged sporadically. OMG. Your fam's all over Insta. You okay? Spill. I replied with emojis, thumbs up, rocket ship, keeping the fortress sealed. Friends were liabilities, solitude was my OS. But revenge's aftertaste lingered, bitter as black coffee. I'd won the battle. But the war? Dad's eyes tracked me like I was both savior and saboteur. Gratitude laced with resentment. You were always too smart for your own good, he'd say over microwave burritos. The TV flickering Judge Judy reruns. That brain of yours. It's a weapon. Kid. Weapon. Yeah. And he'd been the first target.
Nights.
I'd replay the pier in dreams. Victor's tooth glint. Dad's bloodied plea. The siren's wail harmonizing with my pulse. Woke sweating. Fingers itching for keys. Wondering if I'd coded a monster or just unmasked one. The real hook dug deeper when the letters started arriving. Not Mom's, but from strangers. Whistleblower groups. Hacker collectives. Even a recruiter from a cybersecurity firm in Bellevue. Heard about your incident. Prodigy like you? We build firewalls. Not break them. Tempting. But I ghosted them. Trust was a luxury good. Rationed post-haze. Instead, I freelanced on the sly, bug bounties for indie apps. $500 here. $1,000 there. Funneling it into a new $529 under a trust from Aunt Lydia. For the girl who outran the storm, she'd said at her last visit, slipping me a check with tears in her Cabernet eyes. Aunt Lydia, the only clean haze left. Chain-smoking Virginia Slims on our fire escape. Spilling tea on Mom's long-con marriage to Dad for his prospects. Prospects. That's what America sold, the ladder from double-wide to McMansion. Rung by rung. Greased with ambition and elbow. Dad had climbed high. Schmoozing at CES in Vegas. Networking at Burning Man knockoffs in the desert. All while hollowing the core. His secret? Not just the gambling. The affair with Lacey had birthed a half-sibling. A boy. 18 months old. Stashed with her in a condo in Bellevue. Funded by skimmed bonuses. I'd uncovered it in the chaos. A birth certificate PDF in his cloud drive. Paternity. Confidential. Confidential. Like my future had been. Confronting him was a minefield. One drizzly Sunday, as hail pelted the window like accusations, I slid the printout across the table. Who's this? Dad? Your side project? He blanched, fork dropping mid-bite of canned chili. Charlie. It's not what. It's exactly what. You stole my fun for poker. Framed Uncle Theo for your theft. And oh yeah, knocked up your intern. While Mom forged my signature to keep the lights on. Heroic. Silence stretched, broken only by the fridge's hum. Then he crumbled, shoulders slumping like a deflated airbag. I messed up.
Bad.
Lacey. It was a mistake. The kid too. But I was gonna make it right. After the big payout. Payout. The IPO leak he'd chased. Insider trades on green energy stocks that tanked when the feds froze assets.
Right.
Like you made right with Theo. His face twisted, guilt. Or the ghost of it. Your uncle.
He was weak.
Knew about the books. Threatened to snitch. The depression?
Cover.
Elena and I, we pushed the narrative. For stability. For you.
For me.
The ultimate American alibi, sins sanctified by the children. I laughed. Sharp and hollow. Stability? We're in a shithole now. Eating Chef Boyardee. You bore nothing. Pushed it all on us. He reached across. Hand trembling. Forgive me.
Kid.
Please. Let me be better. Forgiveness. The word dangled like bait on a hook I wasn't biting. Instead, I decided, controversial as hell, but I'd leverage it. Prove it. Sign over your half of the restitution to the new fund. And testify against Victor, full coupe. No holds. His eyes widened. Feds already have me on record. That's my terms.
Dad.
Or I leak the kid to the tabloids. Tex Sion's love child, the full haze horror, blackmail from a tween, textbook unethical. The kind of move that'd get me canceled on Reddit. But power's addictive. And in our gutted empire, it was the only currency left. He signed, notary at the UPS store, tears smudging the ink. You're ruthless.
Charlie.
Like me. Like him. The mirror cracked wider. Winter clamped down. Christmas a pauper's affair. Dollar store tree. Ramen noodles spiked with turkey gravy from the food bank. Aunt Lydia hosted. Her split level in Puyallup strung with LEDs. But the cheer felt forced. Toasts to new beginnings clinking like fragile ice. Mom called collect from Purdy. Voice tinny over the line. How's my girl? Keeping grades up? I lied yes. Omitted the bounties. The burner apps tracking Dad's AA meetings skipped half. Love you, Mom, I said, but it tasted like ash. The tension peaked New Year's Eve. Fireworks popping over the sound like distant gunfire. Dad and I watched from the fire escape, breath fogging the rail. City lights blurring into a neon smear. Remember Disneyland, he ventured? Voice soft. You were 6.
Screaming on Splash Mountain.
Best day. Best day. Before the bets. The births. The betrayals. Yeah, I murmured. Before you bet it all on black.
He winced. Fair.
But Charlie. That night on the pier. You could have let them take me.
Why didn't you? Truth?
A flicker of the dad who'd built forts from couch cushions. Read where the wild things are in goofy voices. Or maybe the twist. I was the villain now. Puppeteering his penance. And mercy was my last untainted string. Because family's a glitchy code, I said. Full of bugs. But you debug or you crash. He nodded, clinking his NA soda to my hot cocoa. Fireworks bloomed, red, white, blue, America's explosive promise. But in the afterglow, shadows lingered. Victor's trial loomed, Dad's testimony key, but whispers from his old circle hinted at accidents for snitches. My bounties drew eyes too. A recruiter emailed again. We know about the syndicate hack. Talent like yours belongs in the light.
Light.
Or another ladder. Steeper. Slicker. I deleted it. But sleep evaded. Mind spinning scenarios. What if I flipped the script? Went pro? Turned the Hayes name into a brand. The girl who cracked the code. Controversial TED Talk. At 13. Book deal by 14. Or darker, freelance for the victors of the world. Gray hat gigs padding the fund to millions. Spring thawed the bluff. Cherry blossoms dusting the fire escape like confetti from a funeral. Mom's release date circled on the calendar. April 15th. Tax day. Poetic justice. Dad prepped the welcome home, with vacuumed rugs and grocery runs. But I saw the strain, his AA sponsor calling about a slip, job interviews ghosting him. "They're blackballing me," he confessed one night. Whiskey on his breath despite the oaths. Words out, embezzler. Deadbeat.
Deadbeat.
The label stuck, mirroring mine, troubled prodigy, vigilante kid. At a virtual career fair, a counselor pulled me aside on Zoom. "Charlotte, your transcript's stellar, but the family file. CPS flags. Scholarships might flag this," I typed, logging off. Rage fueled the next bounty, a Rails exploit for a fintech startup. $2,000 wired to my trust. But victory soured when the payout bounced hacked. Ironic twist. Traceroute led to a familiar IP, Victor's remnants. Out on bail. Petty revenge from the shadows.
Panic spiked.
Adrenaline, my old friend. I countered with a DDoS script, flooding their servers with botnet zombies I'd cultured from IoT toys, Ring cams, smart fridges, the underbelly of suburbia. It worked, the bounce reversed. Plus interest. But Dad caught me mid-code. Door creaking open. "What the hell are you doing?" Tidying loose ends. My fingers flew. Console spitting green success. He grabbed my shoulder.
Grip iron.
"Stop.
This path, it'll eat you."
Like it ate me. Ate him. The man who'd gambled legacies. Framed kin. Sired secrets.
"Too late," I snapped.
"You started the fork." "I'm just following the branch," he released. Deflating. "Then teach me." "Let me help."
Help.
The word hung. Controversial olive branch or Trojan gift. I hesitated, then nodded. Father-daughter debugging. Him spotting syntax errors. Me explaining blockchain. For the first time since the funds theft, we synced code as communion. Bytes bridging the chasm. Mom's homecoming was a minefield masked as potluck. She stepped off the Greyhound. Thinner. Hair cropped practical. Eyes scanning for traps. Hugs were stiff. Her perfume replaced by institutional soap. "My babies," she cooed. But her gaze lingered on the shoebox of letters I'd left conspicuously on the fridge. Dinner was takeout Thai, pad CEW from the strip mall joint, steam rising like unspoken indictments. "I've changed," she vowed. Fork twirling noodles. Counseling.
AA.
The works. For us.
Us.
The myth reborn. Dad nodded. I forced a smile. But under the table, my phone buzzed, another bounty alert. $5,000 for cracking a phishing ring. Work called. The digital grindstone sharpening my edge.
Nights.
The apartment thrummed with fragile normalcy. Mom job hunting at the library. Dad cold calling leads. Me tutoring online for extra cash. But secrets festered. I uncovered Mom's post-release text to Lacey. "Keep the boy hidden. Rick's watching. A custody play in the wings." And Dad, a hidden app on his phone, tracking sports bets. For fun. No stakes. The cycle. American as apple pie. Rotten core and all. I debated intervening, expose them again. Shatter the rebuild? Or let it ride? Gather more leverage for the fund. My escape pod to college. To a life unhazed. The decision crystallized during a rare family walk along Ruston Way. The boardwalk buzzing with joggers and buskers. Olympic mountains purple in the distance. Seagulls wheeled. Stealing fries from picnickers, Mom linked arms with Dad, laughing at some old joke. I trailed. Wind whipping my hoodie. Mind a storm of if-thens. Then it hit, the ultimate twist, reversing the truth I'd clung to. A news alert pinged. Victor's trial. Mistrial declared. Evidence tampered. My audio deepfake discredited. Traced to a juvenile IP.
Me.
The feds, piecing it, had flagged me as person of interest, not victim. Whistleblower? Or accessory? Dad's phone buzzed too. He paled, showing Mom. They're coming for Charlie.
For me.
The betrayed now betrayer. My hack's the scaffold of their case. Mom whirled, eyes wide. What did you do? What did I do? Outsmarted them all. But in the reversal, I'd hoisted myself on my own petard. Sirens in the distance? Imagination. Or prelude. We ran not from cops, but the lie. Back to the apartment, barricading with words, confessions, pleas. A hasty pact to lawyer up, fight the narrative. We're in this together, Dad said, voice steady for once. Mom nodded, tears real.
Me?
I coded a VPN tunnel, erasing trails, buying time. Ending? Debatable as ever. Happy, family forged in fire. Me the Phoenix hacker rising from ashes. Tragic, the kid who stole back her future, only to inherit the cage. As dusk fell over the sound, waves lapping like unanswered questions, I wondered, was revenge the outsmart? Or just the illusion? Summer slammed into Tacoma like a freight train derailed, heat waves shimmering off the asphalt, turning the bluff into a skillet where dreams fried crisp. Evergreen arms baked. AC a myth for plebs like us. Fans whirring futile against the humidity that stuck clothes to skin like regret. Mom scored a gig at the local Starbucks, slinging lattes with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Tips Jared for rainy days she joked about over dinner. Dad tempeed as a data entry drone for a logistics firm, fingers flying on keyboards he'd once commanded, muttering about algorithms eating souls.
Me?
I balanced the scales, morning bounties, afternoon online tutors for Chinese kids prepping SATs, evenings debugging family code, literal and figurative. The Fed's shadow loomed, a low-grade fever we ignored like a persistent cough. Agent Ramirez called once, voice smooth as oiled leather over the landline. Miss Hayes. Just questions. Your talents could help us. Internship. Even. Temptations whisper. The light side beckoning. I hung up, blocked the number, but sleep fractured with visions of orange jumpsuits tailored for tweens. Controversy? My moral compass spun wild now. North lost in the Hayes hurricane. I'd dox a scammer 1 hour. Empathize with his sob story the next. Single dad. Bad breaks. American grindstone grinding bone. Was I vigilante or hypocrite? Wielding code like Dad's bluffs? Journal entries devolved to rants. Justice equals revenge 2.0? Discuss. No answers. Just the hum of my cooling pad. A lifeline to sanity. Aunt Lydia became our anchor. Weekend escapes to her Puyallup haven. Backyard BBQs with brats and Bud Light. Her stories of Mom's wild college days a bomb and blade. Your ma was fire. Charlie, art school rebel. Hitchhiking to protests.
Rick?
He charmed the fight out of her.
Charmed.
Like a snake oil salesman at a tent revival. Lydia slipped me cash, too. For books, but her eyes said run.
Run.
The word echoed when the first threat dropped. Envelope under the door. No stamp. Typed note inside. Little bird flies no more. V. Victor's ghost. Bail jumping to Vancouver. Tendrils snaking south. Dad found it. Face ashen. We move. Tonight. Move. To where? Savings nil. Credit scorched. Mom panicked, pacing the linoleum in her Crocs. Canada? Mexico? God. Rick. What have we done?
We.
The royal we, absolving her forgery hand. I stepped up, fingers dancing, Craigslist rabbit hole, scoring a sublet in Spokane wheat fields and wide skies. Anonymity in the sprawl. $800 per month, furnished with IKEA ghosts. We packed light, duffels, laptops, the shoebox of letters like a talisman. U-Haul at dawn. Dad at the wheel. Radio tuned to classic rock anthems that mocked our flight. Born to run, indeed. Spokane hit different. Inland Empire vibe. Less rain. More regret. The Spokane River carving canyons through a city that forgot reinvention. Our new digs. A basement apartment in South Hill. Smelled of mothballs and possibility. Windows level with grass like hobbit holes. Fresh start, Mom declared, hanging sheer curtains from Goodwill.
Fresh.
As if sin scrubbed clean with Pine Sol. School transferred seamlessly, online still, but with a local tutor for socialization, a perky psych major named Jess who probed like a therapist in Birkenstocks. Tell me about your strengths. Charlotte. Strengths, hacking empires, outfoxing mobs. I said math, earned an A in her log. Dad landed steady, warehouse supervisor at an Amazon feeder. Shifts that left him bone-tired, but badge-proud. Union gig, he bragged, showing the lanyard. Mom climbed to shift lead at a drive-through Tim Hortons knockoff, her people skills a shield. They parented tentatively. Date nights at Applebee's. Leaving me with Netflix and nagging worry. Were they clean? I monitored, burner apps on their phones. Pings clean so far. Trust rebuilt bite by bite. But Victor's echo hunted. Spokane's underbelly pulsed quieter. Meth dens in Hilliard. Biker bars off Division, but whispers traveled. A wrong number call to Dad's cell. Thick accent. Haze. Debt follows. Little bird owes feathers. He unplugged the landline. Taught me pepper spray curls. But fear fermented, turning family meals tense. My revenge arc looped. A recursive function without exit. Bounties ballooned. $10K month now. Fund cresting $30,000. MIT's early outreach emails a siren song. But hubris bit, a high roller gig, cracking a crypto wallet for a victim of a rug pull. Payout wired. Then frozen, FBI trace. Suspicious activity. Ramirez again. This time in person. Badge gleaming at our door. Charlotte Hayes, he said. Stetson hat in hand. Partner a stone-faced woman with a bun. We know about the bounties. And the syndicate code. Help us. We help you expunge the flags. Scholarship wrecks. Dad hovered. Fists clenched, Mom wrung her apron. I met his gaze. Brown eyes steady. What's the catch? No catch. Pro bono work. Ethical hacks on bad actors. Ethical. The word dangled. Clean as fresh code. I took the deal. Controversial pivot. Prodigy turned Fed asset at 12. First stop, trace Victor's Vancouver nest. My script spidering servers like veins. Days blurred, school by morn. Consults, afternoons in a bland office overlooking Riverfront Park. Ramirez feeding me red vines and respect. You're a natural.
Kid.
Like Elliot Alderson. Minus the hoodie. Ellison. Mr. Robot nod. But my robot was family.
Glitching.
Dad chafed at my absences. They're using you. Charlie. Mom fretted. What if they dig deeper, Theo?
Deeper.
The frame job. Still buried. But Ramirez's questions probed. Heard rumors about prior irregularities. Uncle, I stonewalled. But cracks formed. One night,
Post op de brief.
I overheard agents in the hall. Hayes girl? Connected to that '09 embezzlement. Theo Hayes, suicide my ass.
Ass.
The reversal brewing. Truth bubbling like overboiled pasta. Victor struck back, mid-July. Heat index 95. City wilting. Dad's Amazon shift ended early. Inventory glitch, he grumbled. But his eyes darted. That night, brakes failed on Mom's Corolla. Careening into a guardrail, off I-90. She walked away. Shaken. Airbags powdery ghosts. Mechanics report. Lines cut clean. Sabotage signature. Panic crested. We hold up. Ramirez assigning protection. A plainclothes tale. My hacks ramping to DEFCON 1. I trace the hit to a spoken cell. Victor's cousins running guns from Idaho. Counterstrike. I dox their safe house. Fed cords to IC. Deportation a sharper blade than bullets. Climax redux at the Lilac Bowl. Abandoned amphitheater on the river's edge. Moon full and mocking. Victor. Bold or desperate. Summoned via encrypted drop. Meet. Or Mama drives off cliff next. I went alone. Against orders. Backpack heavy with laptop and resolve. The bowl echoed footsteps. Graffiti walls closing like jaws. He emerged from shadows. Leaner. Scar fresh across cheek from custody scuffle. Birdie, he sneered. Luger casual in hand. You chirp too loud. Chirp this, I said. Tablet live streaming to Ramirez's team. Hidden in the tree lean. Feds have your whole network. Walk. Or rot. He laughed. Guttural. You think? Your papa, he talks still. About the boy. The secret spawn.
Spawn.
The half-brother. Leverage I'd buried. Twist. Victor had dirt from Dad's interrogation. A photo emailed. Toddler with Dad's cleft chin. Lacey beaming. Pay up. Or family grows smaller. Negotiation turned tango. Gun waving like a conductor's baton. I stalled. A code compiling in my head. A kill switch on his phone. Bricking it mid-transmit. But he lunged, grabbing my wrist. Luger cold on temple. Smart hurts. Then sirens. Ramirez's cavalry. Floodlights bleaching the bowl white. Victor spun. Fired wild. Bullet pinging concrete. Agents swarmed. Takedown swift. Cuffs ratcheting. I slumped. Adrenaline crash hitting like a server outage. Dad and Mom burst from the tree lean. Faces ashen. Charlie, hugs crushed. Tears salt on wounds. Victor hauled away. Snarling Russian curses. His empire pixels now. Scattered to wind. Aftermath. Trials stacked like Jenga. Victor's fed racketeering. Dad's coerced testimony earning leniency. Mom's forgery plea reduced to fines. The half-brother? Dad confessed full. Custody battle looming with Lacey. But I mediated. Share the restitution. Co-parent clean. Controversial? Blended family 2.0. Sins spawning redemption. Fall leaves turned. Spokane's wins whispering closure. Fund hit $50,000. MIT acceptance letter framed on the fridge. Full ride. For the hacker who healed. Healed. Debatable. Dad coaches Little League now. Mom paints watercolors of the river. I intern with the feds. Ethical lines blurring, but holding. Yet nights. Doubts scroll like errant code. Did I outsmart? Or just delay the crash? The haze virus. Mutated. Persists. But in the code of us. I've written the patch for now. Autumn in Spokane was a painter's fever dream. Aspens igniting the hillside's gold. The river a silver ribbon threading the valley. Air crisp with the promise of frost. Our basement burrow felt less like exile, more like cocoon. Walls we'd painted sage green now hung with Mom's abstracts, swirling blues evoking chaos tamed. Life stratified into rhythms, Dad's dawn patrols to the warehouse. Mom's closing shifts scented with espresso grounds. My hybrid schedule a cocktail of virtual classes and fed consults that paid under the table in experience and evasion. Agent Ramirez became unlikely mentor. His office a clutter of cold case files and coffee rings, overlooking the clock tower's hourly chimes. You're not just a white hat, Charlotte, he'd say, tossing me a Twix from his stash. You're a gray pearl rare, valuable, unpredictable, unpredictable. My superpower. Or curse. Ops escalated. Phishing rings busted in Boise. Ransomware neutered in Missoula. Each one a notch on my invisible belt. But ethics gnawed like a bad loop. Family mended unevenly. Scar tissue pulling tight. Dad's custody skirmish with Lacey dragged through family court. Zoom hearings where her lawyer painted him unfit gambler, his rebuttal leaning on my stability, the irony a bitter chaser.
But met the boy.
Ethan. At a neutral park, chubby toddler with Dad's dimples. Lacey hovering like a hawk in athleisure. He's sweet, I told Dad later. Over root beer floats at a diner.
Sweet.
But his existence a reminder. Dad's recklessness birthed life amid ruin. Mom's art bloomed too. Gallery submission in the wings, a series called Forged Paths, irony lost on no one. She'd catch me studying her. Brush paused. No pity.
Charlie.
I owe my messes.
Owned.
Progress. Or PR. Her phone audits clean. But old habits die hard. I caught her scrolling Zillow for upgrades, dreaming aloud of a yard. A swing set. Victor's fallout rippled wide. Syndicate splintered. Assets seized. Headlines crowing, teen prodigy topples crime ring. Prodigy. The press sniffed. A local blogger dubbing me Spokane's shadow coder, anonymity fraying like worn socks. Ramirez stonewalled. But whispers lured. Podcast invites. TEDx scouts. Even a Netflix true crime pitch. The girl who gambled back. I declined. But ego inflated. Bounties selective now. Only the worthy marks. My moral filter tightening, or just selective blindness. The next betrayal brewed subtle. A slow leak in the dam. Dad's clean streak cracked during elk season. A guy's trip to the Selkirk's he'd earned via overtime. He returned reeking of pine and PBR. Eyes evasive. Good hunt. I probed. Casual over spaghetti.
Yeah.
Bagged a spike. But his duffel thumped heavy, not venison. But a burner phone. Ditched in the laundry. Texts pulled. Old poker contacts. Low stakes. For fun. Fun. The serpent's tongue. I confronted post-shower. Steam cloaking his guilt. Dad. The phone. Don't. He deflated. Towel sagging. Just talk.
Charlie.
No action. The itch, it's chronic. Chronic. Like cancer. Or addiction's polite cousin. Itch leads to scratch. Scratch to debt. Debt to docs. We can't. We? You're the Fed darling now. Untouchable. Resentment flared. The prodigy pedestal cracking. Untouchable.
Wrong.
The twist inverted when Ramirez pulled me aside post-op. Face grave over falafel wraps. Your dad's pinging again, sports books.
Offshore.
Small. But patterns. Patterns. The cycle's fingerprint. He's trying. I defended. But hollow. Try harder. Or we loop him in. Rico ties to Victor. Rico. The hammer. Crushing our fragile rebuild. I covered. Hacking the accounts to donate winnings to charity. Anonymous. Untraceable. Dad noticed the dry well. Gratitude mixed with suspicion. Ghost in the machine again, he'd joke. But his eyes searched mine. Father decoding daughter. Mom's secret surface Thanksgiving. Turkey thawing in the fridge like unspoken truths. Aunt Lydia hosted again. Puyallup table groaning under yams and yucks. But Mom's laughs rang forced. Post-feast. Clean-up confessional. She cornered me in the powder room. Mascara smudged. Charlie?
I.
Reached out to Lacey. About Ethan. Reached.
Code for meddling.
Why? Family's bigger now. I want in grandma rights. Whatever. Rick's blind spot. Blind spot. Her own hypocrisy. Forging my future, then claiming another spawn. You stole mine first. Remember? She flinched. Repaid tenfold. Let me atone. Atonement. The Hayes Holy Grail. Elusive as error-free code. I relented. Controversial truce. Joint counseling. Family therapy via Zoom with a soft-spoken shrink from Gonzaga. Sessions peeled layers. Dad's gambler genes from his bookie dad. Mom's enabler echo from her pill-pop mom. My control freak. Wiring as survival hack. You're all addicts, the shrink said. Neutral as Switzerland. To chaos. Chaos. American export. Bottled in red, white, blue. We leaned in. Homework assignments like trust falls over text. Dad's sobriety check-ins. Mom's art shares. My vulnerability posts in a group chat. Progress? Metrics mix slips. But shorter. Bonds. But brittle. Winter gripped. Snow blanketing Spokane in hush. Holiday lights twinkling defiance. Christmas Eve. We strung popcorn on a noble fur from the lot. Dad's axe swing nostalgic. Gifts modest. Mom's scarf knit crooked. Dad's custom mousepad, Hayes Hero. My tablet upgrade from Bounties. But the real present? Ethan's first visit. Lacey dropping him bundled like a burrito. Wary but willing. He toddled to me, grabbing curls, babbling chawa.
Charlie.
The word unlocked something. A subroutine of softness amid the steel. New Year dawned crisp. Resolutions recited over mimosas, OJ for me. Mine, balance the gray. Fed work amped, a multi-state op on a dark web auction ring. My code, the scalpel excising tumors. Ramirez high-fived post-bust. You're gold.
Kid.
Stanford's drooling. Stanford. West Coast sun. Silicon dreams. But roots tugged, family's fragile web. The fund now $65,000. Vesting soon. Debatable departure. Abandon the mend for merit. Or anchor. The climax crested Valentines. Hearts in shop windows, mocking our fractures. Dad's itched fatal, a sure thing on the Super Bowl spread. $500 wagered via app I'd missed in audits. Loss hit hard, bookies called. Old voices venomous. Hayes owes. Or the boy pays.
The boy.
Ethan. Leverage reloaded. Panic scripted the night. Dad pacing. Mom sobbing. Me compiling countermeasures. I got this, I vowed. Diving digital, tracing the collectors to a Reno dive. Ice flags prepped. But the reversal struck dawn. Lacey's frantic call. They took Ethan. Said it's on Rick.
Kidnapped.
A motel on the Idaho line. Ransom $20,000 wired or toddler harmed. We mobilized. Ramirez looped. TAC teams spinning up. But I hacked ahead. Motel cams live. Faces ID'd as Victor's diehards. Ethan wailing in a crib. Heart shredding. I greenlit the breach. Code signaling agents. A digital flare. Rescue swift. SWAT storming at noon. Perps zip-tied. Ethan scooped safe. Gummy smile amid chaos. Dad collapsed at HQ. Hugging his son like absolution. Lacey arrived, tear-streaked. Thank you. Charlie. Thank you. The chorus swelling. Fallout. Charges stack sky-high. Victor's network nuked final. Dad's relapse confessed in court-mandated rehab. 6 weeks in Coeur d'Alene. Emerging hollow-eyed but hooked on recovery apps I'd coded. Mom stepped up. Daycare runs with Ethan. Her art now including toddler portraits. Spring bloomed tentative. Cherry trees confetti ing the streets. My MIT deferral letter arrived. Take a gap. Build legacy.
Gap.
For family. For gray pearl polishing. Bounties shifted ethical. Teaching workshops at the Y for at-risk kids. Code your way out. Ending sketches. Happy in the hybrid. Haze 3.0. Blended. Battle-scarred. Tragic if you squint. The sins echoes in Ethan's laugh. My code, ever vigilant. As snowmelt swelled the river. I coded by the window. Dad reading bedtime to the boy. Mom humming in the kitchen. Outsmarted?
Us. All.
But in the debatable dawn, that's victory enough. Summer circled back. Spokane's heat a familiar foe. But this time laced with latitude, the kind earned, not stolen. Our basement evolved. Mom's paintings gallery wrapped the walls. Dad's AA chip, 90 days, pinned to the corkboard. Ethan's toys a colorful invasion underfoot. Lacey co-parented cautious. Weekend handoffs at the park where Canada geese honked judgments. Family Sundays became ritual. Picnics at Manitou. Frisbee with the toddler. Laughter tentative, but threading true. Fed tenure deepened. Ramirez pushing junior analyst status. Badge and all. Ops spanning borders now. Canadian crypto laundries. Mexican mule networks. You're the future. Charlotte, he'd say. Over post-mission burgers at Pig Out in the Park. Future. MIT waitlisted no more. Acceptance sealed with a housing grant. Orientation packet thick, as promise. But gap year gapped wider. Defer again? For the boy who called me sissy. For the parents piecing puzzles. Controversy crested subtle. A profile in Wired. The 12-year-old who hacked her way home. I greenlit it.
Egor exorcism.
Quotes anonymized. But the byline buzzed. Offers flooded. Book agents. Startup VCs. Even a Disney biopic pitch. Like Nancy Drew meets Snowden.
Drew.
Kid detective, Snowden. Exile.
Me.
Gray Pearl hybrid. Facets, flashing warning. Dad's recovery road bumped. A dream bet in dreams shared at meetings. But he dialed me in. Accountability partner. We'd code together. His sales patter translating to pitch scripts for my consults. Mom's gallery show debuted. Fractured frames, sold 3. Proceeds to Uncle Theo's memorial fund. For the ones we broke, she toasted at the opening. Chardonnay flute trembling. Ethan anchored. His chaos a corrective to my control. Diaper dashes at 2 a.m. Park puddle stomps. First words, mine, echoing the fun's theft but twisted to joy. Lacey thawed too. Coffee meetups where she'd vent. Rick's a mess, but you're solid.
Teach him that. Solid.
The prodigy pedestal. Inherited. Victor's epilogue closed grim. Life sentence in Supermax. Appeals crushed under my evidence avalanches. But loose threads tugged, a final missive smuggled out. Addressed to Bertie. You win round 1. Game eternal. Eternal. The gambler's creed. Haunting Dad's sponsor calls. My own itch surface fall. Leaves crunching under runs along the Centennial Trail. Bounties tempted dark. A reform. Hack on a corrupt polls slush fund. Gray veering black. Ramirez warned. Stay Pearl.
Kid.
Cole's easier slide.
Pearl.
I pulled back. Channeling to open source tools for abuse survivors. Code as catharsis. Thanksgiving anchored us. Aunt Lydia's table expanded. Lacey and Ethan included. Toasts to mended messes. Turkey carved clean. No slips. But post-pie. The twist reversed final. A letter from Grandma's estate lawyer. Tacoma postmark. Unsealed bequest. To Charlotte. Upon maturity, $100K. Plus codicil. Codicil. The hook, Grandma knew. Journals enclosed. Yellowed pages spilling. Richard's gambling. Elena's blindness, Theo warned me. Fund was seed. Not safety net. Grow thorns. Girl. Thorns. She'd foreseen. Fortified, the vaporized $50,000 a decoy. Real nest egg hidden in trusts. Compounding silent.
New.
The betrayal inverted not victims, but variables in her grand algorithm. Dad wept reading it. Mom always one step. Mom clutched my hand. She bet on you.
Bet.
The family vice. Redeemed. Winter whispered closure. Snow soft as forgiveness. Ethan's first snowman. Lopsided with carrot nose. Dad's winter gig as Santa at the mall. Belly laughs genuine. Mom's series 2. Regrown. Greens and golds. Spring unfurled. Cherry petals a pink blizzard. MIT called again. Your gap inspired, welcome. I packed light. Duffel dreams. Families send off at the airport. Hugs crushing. Ethan waving by. Sissy from Lacey's hip. Flight west. Clouds parting over Cascades. Seattle lights winking below. Old wounds. New skies. Revenge's arc complete? Outsmarted the thief. The mob. The mirrors. But debatable denouement. Happy in horizons. Tragic if ties fray distance. Landed in Boston Ivy. Dorm mates buzzing. Code labs humming. Emails home. Dad's promotion. Mom's solo show. Ethan's ABCs. The fund? $200,000 now. Thorne's blooming scholarships. Nights. Cambridge Common. Stars, pricking the dome. I code under lamplight, ethical empires. Family firewalls. The girl who outsmarted at 12. Still hacking. Heart full of debatable dawns. And if wolves howl, I'll answer with code, not curses.